to let their light shine, not to force on them their interpretations of God's designs, is the duty of Christians towards their fellows. If you who set yourself to explain the theory of Christianity had set yourselves instead to do the will of the Master, the one object for which the gospel was preached to you, how different would now be the condition of that portion of the world with which you come into contact! Had you given yourselves to the understanding of his word that you might do it, and not to the querying from it of material wherewith to buttress your systems, in many a heart by this time would the name of the Lord be loved where now it remains unknown. The word of life would then by you have been held out indeed. Men, undeterred by your explanations of Christianity, for you would not be forcing them on their acceptance, and attracted by your behavior, would be saying to each other, as Moses said to himself when he saw the bush that burned with fire and was not consumed, I will now turn aside and see this great sight. They would be drawing nigh to behold how these Christians love one another, and how just and fair they were to every one that had to do with them, to note that their goods were the best, their weight the surest, their prices most reasonable, their word most certain, that in their families was neither jealousy nor emulation, that mammon was not there worshipped, that in their homes selfishness was neither the hidden nor the openly ruling principle, that their children were as diligently taught to share as some are to save or to lay out only upon self, their mothers more anxious lest the child should hoard than lest he should squander, that in no house of theirs was religion one thing and the daily life another, that the ecclesiastic did not think first of his church, nor the peer of his privileges. What do I hear you say? How then shall the world go on? The Lord's world will go on, and that without you. The devil's world will go on, and that with you. The objection is but another and overwhelming proof of your unbelief. Either you do not believe the word the Lord spake, that, if we seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, all things needful will be added to us, or what he undertakes does not satisfy you. It is not enough. You want more. You prefer the offers of mammon. You are nowise anxious to be saved from the too much that is a snare. You want what you call a fortune, the freedom of the world. You would not live under such restrictions as the Lord might choose to lay upon you if he saw that something might be made of you precious in his sight. You would inherit the earth, and not by meekness. You would have the life of this world sweet, come of the life eternal, the life that God shares with you, what may. So much as that comes to, you would gladly leave God to look after, if only you might be sure of not sharing with the rich man when you die. But you find that, unable to trust him for this world, neither can you trust him for the world to come. Refusing to obey him in your life, how can you trust him for your life? Hence the various substitutes you seek for faith in him. You would hold him to his word, bind him by his promises, appeal to the atonement, to the satisfaction made to his justice, as you call it, while you will take no trouble to fill the absolutely reasonable and necessary condition, yea, morally and spiritually imperative condition and means in one, on which he offers, and through which alone he can offer you deliverance from the burden of life into the strength and glory of life, that you shall be true and to him obedient children. You say, Christ has satisfied the law, but you will not satisfy him. He says, Come unto me, and you will not rise and go to him. You say, Lord, I believe, help mine unbelief. But when he says, Leave everything behind you, and be as I am towards God, and you shall have peace and rest, you turn away, muttering about figurative language. If you had been true, had been living the life, had been Christians indeed, you would, however little, have drawn the world after you. In your churches you would be receiving truest nourishment, yea, strength to live, thinking far less of serving God on the Sunday, and far more of serving your neighbor in the week. The sociable vile, the masterful rich, the deceitful trader, the ambitious poor, whom you have attracted to your communities with the offer of a salvation other than the deliverance from sin, would not be lording it over them and dragging them down. They would be the cleaner and the stronger for their absence, while the publicans and the sinners would have been drawn instead and turned into true men and women. And the Israelite indeed, who is yet more repelled by your general worldliness than by your misrepresentations of God, showing him selfish like yourselves, who is the purity of the creation. The Israelite in whom is no guile would have hastened to the company of the loving men and true, eager to learn what it was that made them so good, so happy, so unselfish, so free of care, so ready to die, so willing to live, so hopeful, so helpful, so careless to possess, so undeferential to possession. Finding you to hold, from the traditional force of false teaching, such things as you do, he would have said, "No, such beliefs can never account for such mighty results." You would have answered, "Search the Scriptures and see." He would have searched, and found, not indeed the things you imagine there, but things infinitely better and higher, things that indeed count for the result he wondered at. He would have found such truth as he who has found will hold for ever as the only gladness of his being. There you would have had your reward for being true Christians, in spite of the evil doctrines you had been taught, and teaching you would have been taught in return the truth of the matter by him whom your true Christianity had enticed itself, and sent to the fountainhead free of the prejudices that disabled your judgment. Thus delivered from the false notions which could not fail to have stunted your growth hitherto, how rapid would it not have become?